Welcome, Regina, to Dose of Did You Know with your host, Danny Rocco. I'm so glad we could do this during these times. I get to see you virtually.
Yes, this is great. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me. I'm really excited for this. And yes, this is the perfect time to do something like this.
Yeah, this is when I love technology and social media. There's a bunch of times that I hate it, but this is one of the good times, to have it.
This is definitely a positive, yes.
All right, so in case people don't know who you are running for a Senate seat, District, 24 in New Hampshire?
Yes, Senate District 24 is one of the two Seacoast districts in New Hampshire.
And
so I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, the Seacoast is a special nugget, I feel. Like it's a heart. It is like a lot of people don't even realize throughout the country that New Hampshire has a seacoast.
No, they don't. They think of us as like farmland, cowland, all that stuff. But the great part about New Hampshire is we do have that too. And there's so much great attributes to living in this state. And it's one of the reasons why I've decided to do what I do. It's one of the reasons why I decided to become selectman in Hampton. Same thing.
I want to go back to that because you are a two-term selectman in Hampton. And what makes you decide that this is something that you want to do?
Well, when I decided to become a selectman, the main reason was for sustainability of the town. And when I talk about sustainability, I talk about all the attributes and benefits that make Hampton a great place to live. There's not very many places in Hampton. Like growing up, I lived and worked down the beach. And even today, as an adult, we're very lucky to have something like that so close to us. This is New Hampshire, and pretty much anytime, you can go out, there's restaurants, there's activities, there's so many great business owners here that have invested heavily in the town. And I want to make sure that we are all set for the sustainable future, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but for generations to come. I don't have children, but all my friends have children from, young age. They're all in Center School, Marston, the Academy. And they want their children to be able to enjoy Hampton the way we did. And sometimes as a selectman, I see like decisions being made that are being made too quickly, rubber stamping or whatever you want to call it. And it's not being looked at long-term enough. And when I became a selectman, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what it was going to entail. And the type of person I am, I always give my all to whatever it is I'm doing. So as a selectman, I became to realize, the first term I sort of had to figure everything out, where the glitches were, why they were glitches, what the real problems were. You have the special interest. This special interest is saying one thing. Now the special interest is saying the opposite. Oh, no, don't talk to him. Oh, no, you got to only talk to these people. And so what I did, it took some time to figure out what was really going on. And what is really going on, and I'm willing to bet that it's not just Hampton, but in every community in my district, which I have all towns, it's 11 towns. And, Hampton is the exception because we have so much going on, but what's happening is Concord. And you can call it Republican thing, you can call it a Democrat thing, but there is so much rules and regulations being made on a continuous basis. And, let's say the Republicans throw something in the Democrats don't like. So the next session, they come back, they throw in a bill to, erase or pacify what the Republicans put in. And you know what I realized? Nothing's getting done for us. Mm-hmm. And when things do go through, it's either a law or a regulation that makes our life at the municipal level a lot more difficult or a lot more expensive. So, people are complaining in Hampton, oh, we have too much top-heavy management. We have this, we have that. We shouldn't have a lawyer. We shouldn't have an assistant town manager, all that good stuff that, if you're out on the street in Hampton, you hear it all the time. But what no one's realizing is, where is that coming from?
Right.
Why is maybe a chief of police? I mean, personally, I think we have a great chief. He's out and about. He's still out in the public eye. That's our chief of police. He's there to protect us. But their lives have gotten, I want to say probably over the past 7 or 8 years, a lot more difficult to do their everyday operations, which is the safe to serve and protect.
Yeah.
Now they're bogged down with all these regulations. The town of Hampton's bogged down with all these regulations. This is New Hampshire. We don't have income tax, but I got to tell you, Danielle, regulations and laws are just as expensive for the taxpayer, just as expensive. Hampton is we're very, very fiscally responsible. We're actually probably, I don't know this for sure, but I've heard it said that we're one of the top 5 fiscally responsible communities in the state. And that's because we have great management leadership. We have a board that knows that we are a working class town, regardless of what some may think. We are a blue collar town that's supposed to have small businesses, active, employing people. And right now what I see is, I see the threat of the virus, which is there, and it's scary, especially if you're an older person or something like that. But what I see that's going to be more devastating is the economic effect of all of this for the small businesses, for people that work in small businesses. And I see, in the end, I'm afraid that in order to solve it, the state government is going to try to do it in a partisan way. And that's how I feel, and I can't help but try to explain to people that that's how I feel. When it comes to the coronavirus, it's very scary, especially if you're older or you have an existing condition. But what people need to do is, once in a while, turn off mainstream media and go to the CDC website, go to your state Health and Human Services website. They all have them. You can get to them all by the cdc.gov website, and look at the statistics and compare those statistics to the regular flu, that we have that as well. I mean, right now, I pulled this up from the CDC last night, and it's, so far they're saying 24,000 to 62,000 US deaths of the flu, okay? Total deaths for the coronavirus is slightly over 2,100 per the CDC website. This was last night. I saw on the news this morning that I think that's hit over 2,500. But what people need to realize when they're hunkered down in their home and they're self-quarantining, whatever they're doing, that one, that we have essential businesses that are still out and the world must go on. Like, we've had world wars and we have not shut down.
Well, I think so. Like, you know, I agree with everything I've ever heard you say on social media and on, you know, when I've heard you speak, I agree with. I am a constitutionalist. I believe you are too. This is what we're here. Put parties aside. The Constitution was made for a reason and it's worked. So we don't need to veer very far. We just need to apply those laws. But people become complacent. I think we become so fear-based from, like what you said, everything that we hear, we stop thinking for ourselves, or we stop giving ourselves the ability, saying like, oh, I can think of myself. I can do research for myself. And what's the easy way to do that? The easy way is to just listen to government, you know, and and then this is how, in my heart, I believe big government grows, which big government is not the way it was intended, and big government doesn't work. Look at everything that is run by masses of big government. I mean, they're not run, what's the word I'm looking for? Very well. That's not the word I want, but it's
I know what you're saying. They're big government, whether, like, the government is not there to decide what we should decide, what we are capable of or not capable of. Right. I know, for one, I'm very concerned about my mother and my boyfriend. My boyfriend is over 60 and he's not going out. You know, he might go in the car with me on errands, but he's not going into the store. Like, it's not that I'm not concerned about it, but at the same time, something could happen to him, like not just the coronavirus, there's other stuff out there, but it's like, are we really gonna live and feel like that is just so sad. And I just hope that, you know, the executive orders that Sununu is doing, I understand. I was very upset about, in the beginning, about, you know, the non-essential businesses. I don't really understand what business is non-essential, because when a business closes down, everyone that is a part of that business is left out.
It's a ripple effect. It's a ripple effect of it. We have to have community. Human beings are built on community. And I think we're seeing that even more now that we're stuck in this isolation. And with community creates responsibility. You have pride in your community. I can look at you, hear you, and say, you have pride for your town and your neighboring towns. You care for them. But when you take the power out of us as individuals, you're also taking away the care for your community. Like you said, you know, you might not be going out, or people, because you understand the ripple effect that it might have in your household or with your boyfriend and, you know, of older people that you're around.
I have to go out. I mean, there's some of us that still have to go out. We have to buy groceries. We have to, whatever is going on. I'm a selectman.
Mindful.
You know, I mean, I have to make sure that I'm up to date on information. You know, this afternoon I'll go down. We're closed off to the public, but I have to go and see if there's anything I should know, because I have to make sure. And the town of Hampton's done a great job with their website, you know, updating it and getting messages out for the public. But all as I really would like to stress is, if someone is concerned and has a real question about something, rather than, you know, resorting to the TV or Facebook, they need to call the police department. I've asked our chief 1,000 times. He does not care. Anyone can call and ask them. There's always someone there if they're concerned. Call your doctor if you feel sick. Keep up on your vitamins. I'm going to schedule this week to get IV full of vitamins. We all need to make sure we stay both mentally and physically healthy right now. This will end, and we will be okay after it.
This is what you're speaking, is to putting the power into the community, into the individual. We are intelligent enough, and I feel like if instead of all of this fear, if it's more facts and reality and positivity and learning, the economy would be different. The mindset of the people would be different. It's the mindset of the people that trickle into the economy. Correct? Because if they are like a business, like you said.
I agree with you 1,000%. I know when the state tries to get involved in the daily operations of Hampton, they don't know what to do. I mean, they want to be here now during a crisis. But my problem, which is another thing I blasted about yesterday on Facebook, is that, you know, they're here for the crisis, but they're not here. We know how to deal with it. I'm confident in my police department and our fire department and our public works and our town management. We don't need Concord breathing down our necks, just like we don't need Concord or the federal government breathing down our necks. They can recommend things based on information that they have that we probably don't have. But it's like some people out there are insinuating that there's a bunch of us that are going around not being respectful of what is being recommended. And I don't see that when I go out. When I go to the Hannaford downtown, I see people being very courteous and very respectful. And it's just the negativity. It's not everything is negative. It can't all be about the negative. We won't get through it like that if it's all about negative. It's about individual liberty. It's about municipal liberty, which as a selectman, I have several problems with bills that have happened in Concord that I'm not just going to forget about because we have a coronavirus. I'm sorry. It's because eventually they're going to go back into session and they're going to vote on those bills. And the more public that we have that understands about the bills that they're trying to do, the more chances we have of, you know, I'm pretty sure that Sununu will veto some of them automatically, but he is dealing with a Democrat majority. And those bills, some of them are socialistic. And I do not want this state to turn into a socialist state. I don't, you know, I mean, the states with the biggest problems with this virus are New York, Washington, and California. New Jersey is pretty bad now too, but probably because they're right next to New York. But look at the way they run their governments, all these social programs. Cuomo's always saying, oh, we're going to let everyone come here, whoever they want, no matter where they are, no matter whether they're seeking refugee or not. the top two reasons why people seek refugee in this country are for criminal, you know, to dodge whatever they are facing criminally, or health is based on health. Yeah. So New Hampshire, is that a refugee state? Does it matter that we have refugees in Manchester and Concord and Nashua now, sanctuary cities? That all is there because of politics. And that politics is making the coronavirus even worse.
Yes, because what people have to understand is that there is a consequence for every single thought and action that's made, whether that consequence is good or bad. The consequence, and it ripples down into as far as we can see. It's indefinite because we're all interconnected in some way. Right. So these policies, like you talked about, that in this minute we might need them. In this moment, there might be a few, but that does not mean forever. And we cannot become complacent and indoctrinated into being told what to do, because then we will end up with a socialist state, socialist country. I always say people now get like crap for this, but people, we're live free or die. And I love that. I want to be able to do what I want to be able to do, and I will take that consequence. Good or bad. That's kind of my thing. And I believe you have that same right. This is how we learn. This is how we evolve as individuals. Now, people from Massachusetts want to leave Massachusetts to get away from the high taxes, get away from all of these different, laws that are enforced there. What they do is they come to New Hampshire, vote the same way, and they're turning our live free state into exactly what they ran for. And I don't know, as a resident of New Hampshire, I do not know how to this point of us to make them understand. Look, you came to Exeter. That's where I live, in Exeter. Right. You came from us. You might not call it running away, but you wanted something different. The policies that Massachusetts has, right, taxes and all of that, and you come here, but yet you have that same mindset. Do you recommend, like, how do I get that kind of to them, that you're creating the same vicious cycle that you're running from it, but you don't see that coming from it?
They come here, they want this, they don't want to pay the taxes of Massachusetts or whatever, Connecticut, New York, but they want the same services. Well, they have to realize that when they come to New Hampshire, you can't walk 3 blocks and jump on a train. That's not the way it works here. We're New Hampshire. You can, however, get on your motorcycle and be in the mountains in an hour and a half. So, that's the things that make New Hampshire stand out from most of the country. And that's the reasons why I feel like, as a selectman and running for state senate, not because I want to be a state senator. I'd rather be at the beach or, riding my bike, but I feel like it would bring something to Concord that is definitely there. We have some great representation in Concord, but I feel like, similar to the way I feel on my board, that some of these people have been doing it for so long, and they're just not, I don't want to say seen straight anymore, but they're just not as independent as they should be anymore, because they're like, oh, this guy, who Fred over here wants to do what Bob wants to do. And, they usually make good decisions. So, whatever, we'll just vote like that. I'm not like that. I will never be like that. I didn't become selectman to make more friends, and I'm not going to become a state senator to make friends. I'm going to become a state senator if people vote for me, and they have to realize when they vote for me, I'm going to be doing it as myself. I'm not going to do it as a Republican. I'm not going to do it as a Democrat. I'm going to do it as Regina. I'm a Republican because I believe in grand old party values. And I think that's why we need to go back to those values. We need to go back to the US Constitution and the state constitution, which is a lot more simple and easy to understand. Our rights are there, and they do not have the right to be taken away. Some of these things that are happening in Concord, the legislators have no constitutional right to be doing it. It's become the norm.
Yeah, so I think, complacency, right? Human beings, they become complacent. They become disconnected from the actual communities that they're there to represent. But, you know, as a layman, just resident, how do you decode what's going on? I mean, sometimes it can get so, you know, I'll go on to the sites or I'll read some bill and I'm like, I don't even know what they just said. There's a, you know, it's a language that's not really written to.
Well, I think that's part of the problem too. The way, I mean, if you look at those bills, they're very difficult to understand. But the first thing I look at when I read a piece of legislation is, what are they trying to accomplish by this? For example, I was very upset, and if you go to my website, you see I've been following it for probably almost 2 years now, a housing bill that pretty much takes rights away from the local, the way I view it, it takes rights away from the local planning board and zoning board levels. Right now, if you go, you have a project you want to do, you have to go to the planning board, and then if you need a variance based on your town ordinances, you have to go to the zoning board to get the variance approval. Right now, if you don't agree with one of those boards, you have to go and appeal it to the Supreme Court. So what they've done now in Concord is you don't no longer have to go to the court level. You can go to a bureaucrat appointed board in Concord. That's one board for the whole state, and get the decision made by the locally elected boards potentially repealed. And pretty much, I mean, Massachusetts has a law already. I don't know what it's called, but I've had it explained to me that in Massachusetts, if you go into a community and you say, oh, I want to put up 100 apartments over here, and the guys are like, you know, we can't handle that in our community. It's not what we want. The residents here don't want it. They can go to the Massachusetts state government, get an appeal, and now come back and put 300 apartments in the town. So that, now the reason why, and whatever, like Hampton is very good. I mean, we work, no one ever really says no in Hampton to what people want to do. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. It's the reason why we look the way we do, which I don't mind. But for some of these smaller towns, like, they can't handle it. I mean, some of the towns in my district are like thousands of people. And why should some big developer that sees all this open land be able to come in, get denied by the planning board because the planning board is elected and knows what their constituents want, supposedly. Now they can go to a bureaucratic board in Concord and have that decision reversed. And that bill got defeated by the Senate. It didn't pass. They've been trying to pass it for a while. It didn't pass. So you know what they did? They slipped it into the budget as part of the bipartisan budget deal. So I was infuriated. That bill is now law.
That just seems like a law for, I can bribe you and go around and about to get what I want, not necessarily what the community
That's what most
wants.
of the laws in Concord, I would argue most of the laws in Concord are like that.
I mean,
that's what happens. They put in rules and regulations, and then the 1% who's like they'll, for their friends, they'll let you know how you can get around them. But for everyone else, we have to suffer. And it makes it a lot more expensive.
It's like high school at a very higher level.
That's what I see. I see it at the town level. I see it at the state level. And after going to the American Conservative Union Conference in Washington, National Harbor, I see that it's a nationwide problem.
Well, we are, well, if you look at just human beings in general, like this is kind of, what I do, there is no difference. From when you were a child, your behaviors and how you learn to manipulate the community you're in and the adults and things like that, into middle school, into high school, into college, into your career. I mean, the strategies we use as human beings do not change. They just look different. They evolve with your age, but it looks different. So, I mean, so what do you suggest, like, what are the major holes that you see, and how do you plan on going about it? Like, how does someone who says, I'm going to be, okay, you're a senator now, You see some major fundamental, disconnects between the town level and the state level and the government level. Where do you start as a senator?
Well, first we have to start now. And I feel like I'm not a super religious person, but I do believe in God. And I know as a Republican and a conservative Republican, I've never called myself a constitutionalist before, but these past few weeks when I'm, spending a lot of time in my house, I've talked to a lot of constitutionalists, and I would definitely consider myself one now, is that the only way we can do this, and I just lost my train of thought, but the only way we can do this is, one, we need to put in Concord constitutionalists. And there are some there, but there's not enough of them. We need to go to Concord. Now, why senator? Why not? Why don't I just run for state rep? Well, because state rep, I don't want to be a legislator. I do not want to make laws. I want to take them away, regulations away. I want to go back to the Constitution. I want the public to learn about remonstrating.
Yes.
Under the state constitution, we have the right to remonstrate, which is the opposite of petition. Petition means to ask. Remonstrate means to demand. And the public needs to, while they have time and while they're sitting down at home, I would suggest turning Facebook off, turning mainstream media off, all of them, even Fox, turn them off, and watch and go to the nh.gov website and look up under rules and regulations, the laws and regulations, whatever it's called, look at the state constitution and read it and see if you really believe after reading that constitution, that is what our legislators are doing in Concord, then you might have a problem, because I see that they're not. I took an oath as selectman to the U.S. and state constitution. I did not take an oath to any political party. I did not take an oath to any politician. And when I was talking about God earlier, I just remembered what I was going to say. Back in December, we were really, really busy. There was a lot of Christmas parties, political things I were going to. And we were always saying with Republicans, it's really hard to coordinate and be organized like the Democrats, because unlike the Democrats, we seem to always be doing like 1,000 different things, and we're busy all the time. But maybe one good thing that's come out of this coronavirus, well, I know there's definitely going to be two good things that come out of it. One good thing that's come out of it is that being at home, and all my other conservative constitutional friends being at home, we've been able to talk to each other.
Yeah. And
we've been able to strategize on how we can work to get this message out to the regular people, the people that just usually get up, people my age that get up every day, get their kids ready for school, they go to work, they get their kids home, they make them dinner, they go to bed. That's their life. Now they're not doing that. They're at home. So instead of just, going on social media and listening to the news, I think people need to start educating themselves on the Constitution. And with that, the people like me who are not scared to say how they feel on social media, because that's just the way we communicate nowadays. It's the way it is.
True.
And, if I have a board meeting, yeah, I can say what I want there, but only, a select few people are gonna see it, is forget about the Republican platform, forget about the Democrat platform, go back to the Constitution, because I'm willing to bet that we even have some Democrats in Concord and probably in DC that would prefer to do that as well. But we need the people, because the most powerful body is the people. And we saw what the people can do in the last presidential election. When everyone was cheating and everyone was lying, the people were able to overcome all that and elect President Trump, who I know will lead us through this. I know.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying. Like, if education, knowledge is the key to all. When you aren't, you become a sheep. You're just a sheep, And you will follow whoever. You'll follow the wolf, you'll follow the shepherd. It does not matter what you do. So putting that knowledge back in and reading the Constitution and reading it with clarity, not reading it as, like you said, don't read it as I'm a Republican. Don't read it as I'm a Democrat.
Read it as you're an American.
You know? Yeah, as an American, from your soul, who you are here. Read. And then decide, do you agree? Do you not agree? Are you seeing this? Are you not seeing it? And
like
yeah, go ahead.
The people that are uncomfortable and very frightened, I understand that. This is very scary, but we need to remember that these types of sicknesses are everywhere. They're always there. They've never been tracked like this before.
Right.
I mean, do you imagine? So on the CDC website last night, we had 38 million to 54 million flu illnesses in the whole country, 18 million to 26 million flu medical visits, 400,000 to 730,000 hospitalizations, and 24,000 to 62,000 deaths. As of last night, total cases of coronavirus in the US were 122,653. Total deaths were a little over 2,100. Now, they were saying 2,500 on Fox this morning, but I'll wait till the CDC does their update tonight. New Hampshire, we have, as of last night, 258 cases, 3 deaths, which is 1% of the total cases. We've had persons tested negative for almost 5,000, and then persons that are still being monitored are over 1,000. So 258 people over 1.354 million or whatever our population is. Yeah. I know Rockingham County is very high, but we also have to remember how many borders is surrounding Rockingham County, and also it's very densely populated. It's like 400,000, I think, out of the slightly less than 1.4 million population. So there's a concern. There's definitely a concern there, but no concern should ever be on how to deal with a concern, how it affects you. If it's going to affect everyone differently, but the government is not there to tell you how it affects you.
Right.
And I see that happening, and I'm not blaming anyone. Sununu is in a very, very difficult position right now, but I react when I see things that I don't like. What people need to remember is I'm one of them, and I'm also a woman, and I have a temper, and I'm Italian, and all that good stuff.
Well, maybe that's why we love each other, because that sounds like me.
You know, so when things that are feel like are taking my rights away, I'm going to tell them this is not right. The governor, he can have 800 executive orders to, recommend how we need to stay safe and stop spread and all that stuff. But what really people need to remember is constitutionally, they are only recommendations. And
Right.
There are still some people that want to go to the beach and go for a walk, or they want to get in their car and drive from Massachusetts to wherever and look at the mountains. And you can't, they're not being disrespectful, they're just living. And they're living within the confines of, what is the best for everyone. And I think that it's very important that people need to realize that it's a completely different world out there. And I think after this, we're going to change. And I think that we're going to have a lot of changes around here that are going to be for the better.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said is that, that you're not blaming, but when you see something, because we can't, it's very easy to sit back and have hindsight and be like, well, that was wrong, that was wrong, that was wrong, but you're not in that moment. But what you can speak out about is when it's taken away your right. So then that person, you speak up about it. So then they can say, oh, maybe I reacted in a way that I thought at the time was best with the knowledge I had, but now I'm seeing, because I'm listening to my residents of my state saying like, no, back up, because we've all been at fault that we've done something that hasn't been the best idea, right? You're like in a high stress situation and you do what is best at that moment. What I think the problem is, people let their egos get in, like these people of power let their egos get in,
and jealousy.
Backtrack it and say,
Yes.
like, shoot, that was wrong. I'm sorry. Let's adjust. They just leave it and hope nobody notices.
Right. No, I mean, I'll never take, I will never take back anything I said. I live with very little regrets on anything I do. I've always been that way.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that my candidacy will get people more involved that haven't been involved, like people my age, where it's very, very difficult because they're so busy with their families and their jobs. But right now they have a little time to really think about what they want for their future. What do they want for their children? Do they want a government, dictating to them what they can and can't do? Their children should be able to think for themselves. I like, kids going for a bicycle ride right now. I don't per se see a problem with that, as long as they're being respectful of anyone they come across. I, for one, like seeing the kids be playing outside instead of being in there, in the house on their phone. And I'm hoping that maybe after all this, we'll see more of that, like the way it used to be. So, some things from the good old days, maybe they'll come back after all this. Who knows?
Who knows? I hope so. And, as we wrap up here, what attracted me to you in the beginning was that, you educate without saying you need to do this. You're like, this is my opinion. This is my interpretation. And I appreciate that. I don't want to be told anything. I want to just
no one does.
Given the facts, and then let me make my own thoughts between my own morals and my belief systems and my life, whether I agree or not. And I really appreciate that. And it actually got a fire under me to be like more proactive and be like, what is actually going on? Because I talk a lot about it, but am I doing the research to see what is actually affecting me in my city and in my state? So I want to thank you for kind of lighting my own fire and my own, like, letting go of my own complacency of living.
Right. Tell everyone you know.
I do. I will. I will.
Okay, good.
And I'm going to, in this, I'm going to post the links because I know you are beneficial on social media. Actually, I have learned a lot from from following you on social media, and your website I'll put up there too, barnes4nhsenate.com.
Right.
But thank you so much. Thank you for doing what you do, being humble, because you don't do this for power. You can tell by meeting you that you're not doing this for power and for sight. You're doing this because you love your city, you love your town, you love the people, and you don't want to see that change. You don't want our rights taken away. So
I don't, definitely not.
So thank you so much.
You so much.
And I look forward to actually seeing you in person once this is all over.
Same here, Danielle. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.